So, because I,
Okay, so hello everyone. Today is Sunday, September the 17th, and we are continuing in our study of the science of mind. So, Sakina, Reverend Sakina, would you take it away? But before you get started with the class, we do have a couple of new people who are not familiar with the
Oh,
science of
good,
mind. So, if you wouldn't
good.
mind just giving them a little bit of information beforehand, just to let them know what the science of mind is all about.
Okay. Well, the book that we're uh, studying right now, um, every third week, is called The Science of Mind, and it was originally written in 1926 by Ernest Holmes. And it's a very in depth book talking about um, the mind and the different facets of the mind and how we can relate um, the use of our mind to things going on in our life and how things in our life can be related to things that are going on in the mind. Um, I found Ernest Holmes to be a very, very prolific writer, um, but sometimes you can get lost in what he says. And at the same time, it opens many different doors and different avenues and ways of thinking. Um, and then in studying where he's coming from, it's important to remember that much of what he wrote was back in the early 20s. And uh, much of it hasn't changed over the years. So that's where I feel he's very prolific in the way he writes and opens us to seeing from a different vantage point, and also in how to clear our minds from um, some of the ways we've been taught to think or told to think, and allowing us to more or less find out for ourselves what's best for us, as opposed to what society um, thinks and says is the way we are to be or to think. Um, he does go into um, not necessarily any particular religion, but into the many facets of religion and how over the years um, things have been thought of as being true are really not necessarily true. And it's us up to each one of us as an individual to find what is truth and right for us. Anyone else have any comments that might help anyone else who's new to understand a little bit more what we're talking about in this book? Okay. With that being said, let's just pause for a moment, allow ourselves to open up our minds and our hearts to sense and to feel whatever it is that we need to learn from each other at this time. Open ourselves up to remember that we are neither the teacher nor the student, but that we are both. We learn and grow from each other as we listen and feel what is coming through each other as we share. In essence, the teacher and the student live within each of us. Let us honor that fact and that truth, that all that we are seeking, all that we desire to know, is deep within us, just waiting to awaken. And on that note, we say thank you to the divine source of all that is, was, and will ever be, that we can come together at this time to learn and to share and to grow. We let it be so. And so, dear ones, it is.
And so it is.
We begin with mental pictures. We are all surrounded by mental pictures, and a good psychic sees these pictures clairvoyantly and reads our thoughts telepathically. A good medium has the ability, more or less clearly, to bring these pictures and thoughts to the surface and objectify them, but it does not follow that he is really communicating with the people whose pictures he sees. The human aura. Everyone constantly radiates some kind of a vibration and consequently is always surrounded by some kind of a mental atmosphere. This is called the aura. It extends from a few inches to a few feet from the body, and sometimes even farther. It varies in color and density with the varying degrees of consciousness. In moments of spiritual realization, the aura is bright yellow, merging into almost a pure white. And in moments of rage, it is dark and murky in appearance. There are many colors in the aura, as there are varying degrees of thought activity in the mentality. The halo, which artists have portrayed around the heads of the saints, is real and not an idea of the artist. There is a more pronounced emanation from the head than from any other part of the body, because thought operates through the human brain more than through any other part of the human instrument. It is said that the face of Jesus shone so brightly at times that his disciples could not look upon it without becoming blinded by its brilliancy. Any comments? We'll continue. Unpleasant atmospheres. In a combat of wills, the atmosphere sometimes appears to strike sparks as though a battle were being waged on the subjective side of life. Unpleasant people always have a disagreeable atmosphere, and morbid people always depress. A radiant aura emanates from the one who lives a normal, happy life and who is always at peace within himself. Habits are formed by first consciously thinking and then unconsciously acting. But few realize that when one consciously thinks, something must happen to his thoughts. What one thinks today will tomorrow be a part of his memory. And since memory is active, what he thinks today as a conscious thought will tomorrow be submerged but active thought. This is how a habit is formed. First, it is a desire. Then comes the expression of this desire. Then the desire becomes subjective, and the subconscious action of thought causes it to be performed automatically. First, we control thought, then thought controls us. And I quote here: first the man takes the drink, then the drink takes the drink, then the drink takes the man. Constant repetition gradually forms such a thought force on the subjective side of life that the very force created, in its turn, controls the one who created it. How careful we should be about what we let down into the deeper currents of mentality. All habits are formed in much the same way. They are at first conscious, then they become unconscious or subconscious. A person may create such a strong desire that it will compel him to put it into execution. This is called mania. Any comments?
Well, yeah.
Well, just for, yeah, go ahead, T. Because I'm just lost. I had a fire downstairs.
Oh.
I had to go and stop a fire. So where are we?
We just finished the section entitled Habit.
Habit.
Yeah. And my my question, I don't want to seem like to be a rebuttal, but as humans do we not do out of habit? Whether it be go to work, I mean, I'll elaborate, whether it go to work or tell our children to go to school or get an education or society, or, you know, where does there ever be a point where a habit is not there?
I think when we do things spontaneously. In other words, maybe we have the habit of getting up in the morning, washing our face, brushing our hair, brushing our teeth, getting dressed, and having breakfast. Maybe that's our normal everyday routine so that we then can go to work. But let's say something happens that we get up and we have to tend to something. For example, and I hope, Penelope, I can use you as an example here if it's okay. Your habit is normally when we do this to sit and listen or to sit and talk and what have you. But for a moment, you got called away out of the ordinary habit that you do to take care of something else. The fire in the kitchen. Okay. So that wouldn't have been your normal habit, but yet you got called away to take care of that. And see, that's where I see sometimes, T, that we don't do the same habit.
Well, no, I'm not saying I'm not saying this. I'm not saying the same creature comforts in habit. And well, there we go. That's what I'm looking for. Are creature comforts habits?
They can be if we want them to be, but they don't have to be if there's an extenuating circumstance of some other. I mean, non-state group that we had recently, one of the instructors, Edith suggested that in order to change and raise our consciousness, that we start doing things like we normally brush our teeth with our right hand, to try to brush our teeth with our left hand, to try to do something that we normally do, but to do it in an opposite manner. And then it doesn't become a habit. It just becomes getting into that now moment and responding from there.
Well, in doing something like that, you really have to stop and think about it before you carry out the exercise.
Right. You have to become consciousness rather than just doing things from a subconscious, mundane, way of doing things. It's like taking a different route to go to the same place that you go to, but to try and go a different way and see, how much longer it takes you to get there or how much less time it takes you to get there. I feel that we don't ever want our lives to be such a habit that it just becomes an unconscious act.
Well, that's what I mean.
Consciousness.
But that's what I mean. As you used that example, as far as your right or your left hand, no matter however you look at it, it's still a creature. It's still creature comfort. It's still a species comfort where it feels better for you, and that's the way that your mind is going to work. So when I do agree, when you do it on the opposite side, yes, it does. It definitely does feel weird. Trust me, I'm left-handed, and I live in, and it's a right-handed world. So I've tested all those waters, whether I wanted to or not. You know, so it's just the way that it's the way that how that part is looked upon, and what makes you comfortable. If you are in a situation that you are uncomfortable, whether being left-handed or right-handed, spiritually or physically, you know it. So therefore there is no switching sides of it. It's understanding. So I don't, I mean, I agree with you that we should practice, certain different attributes, but you know, I understand, I can already understand discomfort, because discomfort is why I'm sitting here going, okay, something wrong in the first place. So I don't have to make myself discomforted to understand what discomfort is.
Right. And it's an understanding
So is
discomfort.
there a yeah, so is there a difference? Because I think where he's speaking is just a point of an addiction versus habit and creature comfort.
Right. And we can become addicted to anything if we allow that into our lives. On the other hand, we can allow ourselves to just be open and see that certain things can take over if we allow them to take over. In other words, if we see that it's necessarily needed.
Okay, I just have a
Does that make
question,
sense?
and this is just for me. Did we read mental pictures and conditions necessary for the best results and deep telepathic messages? And did we read all of that? Streams of consciousness while I was gone? Many
No.
mental
It starts
pictures.
there. We start on many mental pictures.
We started on many mental pictures. So we read the
that
human.
the last time.
Okay, so we read the human aura, halo, unpleasant atmospheres. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are talking about negative habits.
Well, it's just titled habit.
Oh, okay.
And anything can be a positive habit or a negative habit. The same thing can be a negative habit. For example, drinking. Okay. Depending on what you're drinking, it can either be a negative habit or a positive habit.
Mm-hmm.
But drinking in essence, without giving it any particular fluid, whether it's drinking alcohol or drinking water, putting that aside, just the mere idea of drinking can take over.
Well, I mean, but on that point
Doesn't
of
have to
view,
be
we are,
anything.
but Miss Sakina, I have to step in on that, because on this point of view, he also led off with that point of view of a habit, and we already know that we are speaking of the 1920s and things like that. So habits and addiction, we have already, I'm saying that should be something that should be split into two different categories, because habit and addiction has to do with society and the way that things work, as well as just falling into a point of view. So I understand where he's speaking, but what I'm saying is, you're using the same thing as far as drinking. We can use anything, the addiction of the phones, because most people ain't dying over drinking no more. Most people dying because of phones.
Well, see, anything
People
So,
going
but
to
And
jail.
he said anything can become an addiction and anything can become harmful.
But
But
yes,
are we
That's the
talking?
definition of addiction, though. Addiction is when it affects you negatively.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yes, when something negative starts happening. So that's where I'm looking at it from that point of view. Like, what don't we do in this point of view with our creature comforts that we have?
Can I
Mm.
just insert something here? Anything can become a negative habit. It doesn't matter whether it's drinking and what we're drinking, the food we eat. If we overindulge in eating, a habit, that can have a negative effect on our health.
Right.
The use of, and there's nothing wrong with drinking or having a glass of wine or a shot of liquor, whatever your choice of alcohol is. But if you overindulge, that's when it becomes a negative thing or habit, if you will.
And it's also when we
Of
overindulge
course.
in thinking. And that's what
Yeah.
that's
Of
what
course.
he's driving.
I mean, that I think that's what I'm saying. I think what we're explaining should be a little bit more broader on so many more aspects, because I do understand what he is using his examples from a point of view at that point in time, but we should go a little bit more broader when we ask a question. I asked you a question, you gave me the same answer that he gave me.
No, you took it that
Are,
day.
are
You
we,
took
You gave
it
me the
that way,
same
but I didn't give
example.
it that way.
You gave me the same example that he gave me.
But okay.
okay, but okay.
He
Let
can
me ask. I just need to get caught up a little bit. Because I still got a lot of smoke in my house, and I'm gonna have to run back downstairs in a minute there.
Oh, Pam.
So are we talking about forming habits just in general, or are we talking about negative habits compared to positive habits? And
Well,
how do, and so so what are we talking about?
I feel he was expressing the idea of a habit is anything can form as a habit if we allow the desire to take us over. The desire of doing that particular thing and we allow it to take over. And he says here how careful we should be about what we let down into the deeper currents of mentality. In other words, we need to be very careful of how we think and what we think and how we allow that thought to penetrate deep into our mental capacity.
Okay. So we're talking about how to also how to change habits. If you are coming from a negative habit, you change from a negative habit to a positive habit by by thinking, but and by paying attention to where your thoughts are and going along with the thoughts. And and I think it's saying that so it works in sequence.
But he goes on, he goes on to say all habits are formed in much the same way. They are first conscious, then they become unconscious or subconscious. In other words, we just do it. We're not really sure why we do it, but we just go ahead and do it because we've been doing it that way. And then he says a person may create such a strong desire that it will compel him to put it into execution or into activity. And this is called mania, and that's what we're at the next section.
Okay, so now the next section, we're going to be going into the negative parts of habit.
I think so.
Okay. So, okay. I just had to get caught up. I didn't know where we were.
We ready to move on? Mania. Literally speaking, mania is a desire too strong to be controlled. We speak of one having a mania for certain things. That is, he has subjectified so much desire along some particular line that he becomes controlled by the very power which he has set in motion. Morbid people are more liable to do this than normally minded ones. For instance, let a sensitive person become despondent, and he may think of committing suicide. This thought, at first, may be put aside as unworthy, but as it returns, it receives a little more attention, until at last it may become so strong that it is irresistible. Most murderers are committed, I'm sorry, most murders are committed from this mental attitude. And most murderers are people who are mentally sick. Someday this will be better understood. Such people will be considered sick and will be healed mentally. This shows how very careful we should be to control our thinking, never allowing the mentality to conceive ideas which we do not wish to see manifest. After all, these things are mental attitudes, and the best way to heal them is through mental treatment. Any comments on that?
Well, I would think that just because we are kind of like working from let's say from bad to good, for lack of a better words. And because I lost I missed the first three sections, I see that we are talking about how important it is to monitor our thoughts and to pay attention to the things that we are trying to bring into manifestation into our life. And I think he's using negativity so that we can see the opposite side of it. And we don't necessarily need to get stuck in the thing, because like this, like a person committing suicide, or a person who wants to murder. So we're basically talking about killing people.
Mhm.
And oh gosh, I don't even know if we might not be able to put this on YouTube. So we might have some violations about that. But anyway, so I think that some of the things that we're talking about here is how to bring ourselves from the negative into the positive by seeing the opposite first of who and what we are into who and what we can be. I guess this is how I'm seeing this this section that has to do with that thought process of habit, because habit in itself can be good. I mean, if you have a habitual, if you habitually wake up every morning to meditate, and you can meditate for hours, I have heard of people that can bring all kinds of good into their lives from that habitual standpoint. And but if you continually think of negativity, then I think that does turn into this thing called mania, which Harriet, can you look that word up so we can see what it means?
Which one?
Mania.
Mania.
Okay.
Because right now we get into like psychological terms, and I don't know whether Ernest Holmes was a psychologist. Was he a psychologist? Do you know? I think he was somebody who just enjoyed, or was he actually a psychologist?
He was a doctor.
Uh-huh.
He was a very eclectic person. He came from a very astute background.
So, but I know that psychology still was kind of early for like regular people at that time.
Yeah, that's 19. Yeah, that's still 1920. So
So I mean, I don't know. It doesn't
was
really
just,
say
yeah,
that he was a
that's early.
psychologist or
Yeah,
not,
that's
or whether
early.
he was into psychiatry, or
Yeah,
what
yeah,
type,
yeah.
or what type of doctor he was.
Yeah, yeah. Was he a surgeon? Was he a pediatrician? Was he?
I kind of think that he probably is something. But anyway,
I'm sorry I'm taking so long, but I'm having a problem with
your
the word
internet, I
maniac.
had problems with the internet too.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
a
because
rough.
some words we just have to, understand in today's language.
Mhm.
From because we had, and like you said, there's going to be a time where we're where the murderer can be healed mentally. We haven't even gotten there yet.
Okay.
Not in America, anyway.
This is what I have for mania. Excitement, excuse me, excitement manifested by mental and physical hyperactivity, disorganization of behavior, and elevation of mood.
Okay.
Excessive or unreasonable enthusiasm.
Excessive and unreasonable.
Or unreasonable enthusiasm.
Okay.
My concern with this section was actually that first sentence. Mania is a desire too strong to be controlled. No, it was something else. Oh, most murderers are committed from when he's talking about murderers, a person, and then he goes on to say that, that they are mentally sick. But a person who kills somebody who invades their home, they're only protecting themselves. I don't consider that person, they may be a killer, but not a murderer, but yet and still the act itself, they have killed, they have murdered.
Well, murder itself is you have to have it has to be premeditated in order for it to be murder.
It's a difference between murder. It's a difference between murder and kill.
Yeah. Murder has to be premeditated. So you have to already have thought about it.
Oh, we definitely can't put this on the internet.
Yeah. So murder. So a murderer, and I think that that's what he's saying is someone who consistently thinks about murder. And by the definition you gave, I mean, you if you're sitting around thinking about murder all day long, who you going to murder next? How long it's going to take for you to murder? What that is going to cause some type of excitement in your body. You are going to have some type of enthusiasm for that condition, so that you can feel that thing again. And I think that that's probably what he's saying. Okay, I got to go back downstairs. There's still a lot of smoke. I'll be back.
I was just going to say a good example of what we're talking about is that individual who escaped a prison up in Pennsylvania, who was recently caught, and he was on the lam for about 2 weeks before he was finally caught. And I don't think he killed anybody during that 2 weeks, but evidently he would be considered a murderer because he did murder. He murdered his I don't know whether it was his girlfriend or his wife and child.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And he was wanted down in, I think it was Brazil, but one of the countries in South America where he had committed the same crime.
I agree with both of you and also with what Penelope was saying, but I think we're losing sight of what Ernest Holmes is talking about. He's going back to the very nitty gritty, that it all boils down to your mental state. Are you going to allow your mental state to control you? And if so, that desire to let your mental state control you becomes so strong that you do become maniac. On the other hand, if we get beyond that and get down to the nitty gritty and realize that it is our mind, the mind of every single individual, that as you allow it to go about its business unconsciously, you are going to continue to have these problems of people desiring to have more, and in order to have more, do whatever they need to do to get more? Or are you going to allow your mentality to rise above it and to realize that whatever you have is what you need at that moment of time in your life and in your growth? And it's in our mental ability, our mental understanding, that helps us to get beyond the mundane and to a more spiritual and a more evolved sense of being, as opposed to just the mundane. And many of these individuals that we read about or hear about, whether we hear about them because of some fantastic task that they did or some thing that they did that harmed and hurt other people, it's all boils down to the mental state of the individual and how we as individuals handle those mental states. And we can only grow as we continue to handle our own mental state and keep it in check and allow it to rise above and beyond what society considers as normal.
Yeah. And again 100% I agree. With what you said and how you have been able to see and work through this knowledge and digest this knowledge. I can see that 100% on where you're coming from, and to see that equalism on a point of view of someone who was granted the point of view to be able to go to school and write these books at that point of view, so
I apologize.
oh, not a problem. I understand. I do hear the peace and unity and the oneness of it 100%. I just don't know anything else about it to be able to say from a point of view of where I can see where he is saying this in history.
Well,
that because while this is being said, it's not being said to protect a community that is being abused or having the alcohol or the drugs or the negative realm pushed into it, versus what we're saying is, okay, if you can do this and you can stay away from it, it's this. Well, if it's on your front door every day all day long, there's a mighty big difference of overcoming.
That's true, and that's why we have to understand that not all people are ready to work and change themselves, that there are still many people that want somebody else to take responsibility, to if we go back to the time of Jesus, if everything Jesus said, people at that time took to be truth and did it, our world would be a much different place. But there were people at that time who were ready to grow and to learn from what Jesus talked about. And even going back further to what Buddha talked about, to any of the great masters who have evolved. But we as individuals are at different stages, different levels of consciousness. And the only way the world is going to change is not by us doing all these good deeds. It's by us as an individual rising above it, saying that I am peace, I am love, I am joy, I am happiness, and believing that. And then you experience it. And yes, there are going to be still these other things happening in the world, but they're happening to individuals who have to experience it, who have to learn from it through the experiencing it.
Well,
I don't know. I really don't know how else to put it, except
Well,
that we read
yeah,
more and more.
can I kind of break in here for a second? Because I kind of think that I don't know, what we're doing, what this book has is a segment of lessons. Each
Right.
chapter has a segment of lessons, and each lesson is teaching us how to use how to think critically, basically. And so I think that he is, when we have a paragraph called habit, he's just saying, okay, this is what habit is. Now he threw in some of his examples because that's how he thinks as an individual. Now we have a paragraph on mania, and what he, is, and this is how he is describing mania from his perspective. And next we're going to have the next lesson is going to be on obsession. So I think that what he's saying is that from each lesson, if we learn how to use habits properly, for ourselves, and how to and what we teach for our families, then we'll be having good habits, and we will, because we can have mania. I think that they have mania. I don't know if there's a positive side of mania. Just from that description that just from the definition that Harriet told us, it didn't seem like there was a good part in mania. But I guess that if but I think that what he is, from what I'm seeing, is that he's just describing the negative first, maybe because he thinks negative first, and then we move to the positive.
He's giving little,
that's just what I'm thinking.
yeah, and I agree with you, Penelope. He's giving little tidbits, of an overall picture. And as individuals, as we read, we get these little lessons, and we can kind of see what in ourselves we need to change, or what in ourselves we need to work on. But then as we go with the next one, that helps us to grow. And that by the time we get to the end, so-called, we will have a better picture of how we as an individual can manifest and bring forth a better us, so to speak.
Because this is the book that we're reading.
Yeah, it's thick.
So it's really just describing a lot of different things that humans, that the science, where the science of mind is, where that humans relate to, or that humans come from. So I think that he's just, without us being psychologists, or without him being
Sunday, ladies. It's Sunday, ladies and gentlemen. I want to kick and scream.
Oh.
That
sounds like a mania.
I want to kick and scream. I'm so happy to be with you guys. I just want to kick and scream. Be like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a
No, but
minute.
No, but those are important questions because, you know, especially if you're just coming new and you're not really familiar and you haven't been here for a while, we're really just talking about different areas of our mind, so that we can understand the sections of our thought systems and our thought patterns and why we think the way that we think and how we can correlate those psychological thoughts along into our spiritual life, how they transcend from one thought system of you have a habit and how your habits can promote positive life, the positive life, a positive life within your in your spiritual life. Then so that's just that's what I'm seeing in this, because and we're already on chapter 5 or 6. I don't know which
Lesson 6.
chapter we're in.
Lesson 6. Are we ready to continue?
Yeah.
Okay. Obsession. Obsession is another form of mental control and may or may not be conscious at its inception. People may become obsessed with desires, thoughts, ambitions, habits, suggestions, or other mental influences. And if the spirits of undeveloped entities surround us, it seems entirely possible that people may become obsessed by them. The obsession of desire produces a mania to express that desire, for thought demands an outlet. Some are so obsessed by their ambitions that they are constantly driven to the accomplishment of them. Some are obsessed by the suggestion of their environment, for the mental atmosphere of places often obsesses people, compelling them to do certain things and without any apparent reason. In studying a case of obsession, we should take all the facts into consideration and reason from effect back to cause. People often become mildly obsessed by the mentalities of those surrounding them. This is called personal contagion. Many take on the color of their environment, and this should be guarded against, for it is a mild form of hypnotism. It is, of course, brought about through the suggestive power of unconscious mental action and may or may not be malicious. We should never allow ourselves to become controlled by anything that we do not consciously allow to enter the thought. If one feels an influence silently demanding attention, it should at once declare that there is no power in the flesh or but of it that can control him, except, of course, the one perfect mind. Obsession of discarnate spirits. If we are surrounded by discarnate spirits, they also might control us through suggestion. That is, if we allowed them to do so. By thinking toward us with a strong desire, they might so implant this desire on the subjective side of our thought that it would come up from within, causing us to do certain things which we never consciously thought of doing. This, of course, is hypnotic influence. But all mental influence is hypnotic, varying only in degree. If it is true that disincarnate spirits are around us, and it appears to be true, we should carefully guard against the possibility of any mental influence from them. The statement that only the one mind controls will protect us from any and all wrong mental influences of whatever nature, whether emanating from those in the flesh or out of it.
Okay, so we went through three paragraphs that time.
All right.
So on the first paragraph, which was obsession, I guess I have a question about where was it about and if the spirits of undeveloped entities surround us, what does that mean? Is it, are we talking about people who are you okay? We're having a time with Wisey on today. So yeah, what does that mean when it says and if the spirits of undeveloped entities surround us? Are we talking about people with mental influences? Are we talking about ghosts? What are we talking about? Am I by myself? Hello?
Hold on, no, I'm with you, Pen. I think
We lost Sakina.
Oh, here she
we
comes
just
back.
lost skin on that one.
Yeah.
Well, what do y'all think? Do y'all think or what are we talking about? This and undeveloped entities around us. What does that mean? Obsession and another thing.
Are they talking?
I want to apologize. My phone went out, so I had to redo everything here.
Oh no. Well, it's like I said, it's Sunday. So what if the spirits of undeveloped entities surround us? What are we talking about? It seems entirely possible that people can become obsessed by them.
Where are you in that first paragraph?
Yeah, that first paragraph, obsession. Because that ends up, because we the third paragraph is discarnate spirits. So what are we talking about when we're talking about undeveloped entities?
Are we talking?
Come on.
No, I was just going to ask, are we talking about flesh and blood human beings or spirits?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. What are we talking about?
I think it can be either one. Because we could hear something in the news, on the media. We could hear somebody just walking past us while we go through McDonald's or Walmart, and they walk past and they maybe say a word or something, and it affects us in some way. Or we can sometimes just hear a voice inside of our head.
Okay, so we
That
are
causes us to react a certain way or not to react.
and so they're saying that we can become obsessed, and it seems entirely possible that people may become obsessed by them.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I guess. Well, I guess I can see that in another way. Because I guess if you are, like afraid, I was a friend of mine came over maybe about a month or so ago, and if y'all know, if you've been to my home, I have my altar downstairs, and it has both my mother and my father's what do you call it? I can't remember the word. Urns.
Remains.
Their urns
Remains.
are their urns, are on my altar. So and he was saying, oh, I couldn't even sleep here. I couldn't even live here. Well, thank you for that. Glad to know that. Good for that. But the other thing that I was thinking of, and I was saying to him, I said, well, my parents were loving and kind. I don't know who your parents were to you, but were your parents unkind to you, or mean to you, or abusive? And he said, no, my parents were loving and kind too. And so my thought was, why would you be afraid of your parents? And he was saying that I'm not afraid of my parents, I'm afraid of ghosts. But
yeah.
But if you're afraid, if you are so obsessed with the sense of being afraid of ghosts that you are afraid of your own parents, and you couldn't, well, I'm glad you're afraid of my parents, because I'm gonna tell you what.
You should be
I'm
afraid of the
glad, 'cause
whole family.
yeah, you're not gonna live here anyhow. Starting with me, I won't gonna let you spend the night here anyhow. But 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 if that's but if that's that if you have that type of, to me, that's an unreasonable fear. You are so afraid of something that you don't have enough information about, that it stops a productive part of your life. I can see that is obsession. I can see why you can be obsessed in that way, and how obsession can hinder you. Because
Right.
I don't think that obsession is good in any point, as well as mania. I think
Yeah.
that, for me, I think that both mania and obsession are those negative aspects of mind that causes us hindrance, and those speed traps, and sand
Hinder
traps, and
from
things
growth.
that keep us not being productive.
Their
Yeah.
fears.
And
Yeah.
again, and again, I think it's that level of certain things. And I like I said, I did not agree with while we were speaking of habits and where habits are, but I just wanted to distinguish between habits and what our creature and what we have to do on what we have to do and what we should do and how we should do certain things versus just when just feeling we should punish ourselves from it. And that's just more or less how I kind of took as he was speaking of habit. But now that we are where we are speaking of mania and certain things like that, I can understand what he is saying. It's still dealing with a point of to me, it's still dealing with a point of trauma and fear, as Penn just said as
Mhm.
well. Like it's still like dealing with that point. So I'm trying to figure out where's your outcome from, or is it that you just go through from his point of view right now.
What
But
do you
that's
mean?
just me. That's just
What
me.
do you mean, obsession? What do you mean when you say point that we go through?
Um, I again, I think something when it comes to something that's a obsession, I think that's something that you kind of choose. I don't think that's something that whether you want to call it a negative entity jumped on you. It's something that you created from your own negative from your own negative aura that is now powering you in that force or living off of you.
Your own
So
negative imagination.
or
Mhm.
just the same as, and I mean a big thing about it is how we hear so many people say that they are in love and loving hip hops and loving this and and loving that, but everybody's swinging on each other and smacking each other and hitting each other and no and throwing drinks and nobody's happy. No, you know, nobody's showing like that they're at the park with their kids and nobody's doing that or actually doing their job. They so I mean, so like it's like that that obsession.
Mhm.
Is it a is is it is even can we cross over from what's supposed to be good as far as love? Can we cross over and object that, and that is obsession? Or and how does that work? And so I think it's a choice, and I think we grow that as individuals, not something that is given to us outside.
Mhm. Um, when we're talking about, like, and then this next paragraph, where we talk is personal influence and obsession. That was the one that had the, like, it is like a mild form of hypnotism. Many may take on the color of their environment, and this should be guarded against, for it is a mild form of hypnotism. I think that also that kind of goes in with like where we are now in our two-party system of government. We're only seeing the Republicans and we're only seeing the Democrats. We got independents, we got moderates, we got so many different things in between, but we are kind of obsessed by the personal influence of people from either party. And I think that, and I think that does is like a mild form of hypnotism. I mean, for me, for the life of me, I really can't understand people who are my age who actually kind of think that a certain individual is good for the nation, you know, based on the fruits of their labors, how they have acted within. So to me, that is a mild form of hypnotism.
Yeah.
But also, I think that and and y'all just bear with me for a second because I'm a TikTok person. Y'all know I'm I love my
We in the
TikTok. I
rabbit
just got
hole.
finished watching the I
We in
just
the
got finished
rabbit hole.
watching
Go
the
ahead. You
7 days
Alice
of
in
the
Wonderland. You got it. You Alice. You Alice. You got it. You got the mic.
here's my rabbit hole. So I just got finished watching the 7 days of the Invictus things. And I'm not a sports person. So every now and then I would, see, a wheelchair race or something like that. But my main obsession is like Harry and Meghan. So that's why, I wanted to see I wanted to see them. And when we look at love as an obsession, I can see the way that Harry is so protective of his wife and how he really pays attention. He would just walk past and you could see him ask her, "Are you okay?" And she says yes. So you can see that this is something that they do probably in their laundry room. "Are you okay?" Yes. Did you have, you just were swamped by a million fans. "Are you okay?" Yes. Somebody just said something negative and nasty about you. "Are you okay?" And she says yes. So to me, I can see that personal influence can be positive if you're in the right frame of mind and if you are um, understanding yourself and you have a love for yourself. But yeah, and then this last paragraph here is this one with the obsession of discarnate spirits.
Mhm.
So what is discarnate spirit? Is that like yeah, can you look that word up for me?
Discarnate, person or being not having a physical body.
Ghost. Well,
So that's to me that's saying it's a spirit. It's ethereal. That's what. Yeah.
I don't want to, I know I'm doing a lot of talking but Tay, you can jump in anytime. Please feel free to jump in. If even if none of this stuff is making sense to you, say that.
We see you, Forrest. We know you in the house.
Yeah.
Y'all follow, okay. Follow.
Yeah, and Forrest, you too, y'all can just jump in at any time. But
okay.
With me, I guess I can also see discarnate spirits, yeah, as ghosts, but also it's kind of like old memories, or
Ideas.
huh?
I was going to say also, you said old memories, and I said, or ideas.
Or ideas. Yeah, those things that, it kind of, it holds a lot of energy still in our minds so that we still can actually feel it. Either whether it's joyful or whether it's painful. I think that that also can be a part and that type of energy it holds within a household. Sometimes you can go over to somebody's house and you can say, oh my gosh, a lot of negative things have happened in this house. You might not know what the negative things
Right.
are,
It's that
but
energy.
But you can feel it.
yeah, you
that
can feel that
energy.
energy. Yeah, you can
Mhm.
feel that energy. And maybe that is also some of the discarnate spirits that we can feel. And I guess, you can't become obsessed with them, especially if they are old ideas or memories. If you remember, and that's one of the things I say, the ghost of Christmas past, with these, not to talk about the men in the room, but the but the pool that I use, the pool that I have to fish in, is generally filled up with these guys that are stuck on 17. They, back when they had they
1960,
spiked
1960 what? Yeah.
they spiked that football at the football game, in that time, and so there's still that, we still have that memory thought, and we can't move on from that. And yeah, I'm gonna bring up the girls too, because when I'm in here too, or from us ladies, when we have had some idea of what our fairy tale romance is supposed to look like, and if it's not looking like that, we're gonna make that thing fit into this square peg. It's not, as a matter of fact, it's a star-shaped peg, and I got a round, it's a star-shaped hole, and I got a round peg, and I'm gonna do everything I can to make it fit in here, because it's supposed to
Weave
look
it in.
just like this, and I can't be satisfied. And I think that also, and if there are discarnate spirits that are more familiar with the energy that surrounds us, and they know how fragile our consciousnesses are. Consciousness is, I don't
Ego.
think that's a word.
Ego.
They understand how fragile our consciousness is. But if we are allowing those old thoughts to come in, I think that those discarnate spirits can affect us, and can ghosts, let's say ghosts, or whatever type of energies that are out there that are still lingering around from another lifetime. If they are out there, I think that they can affect us, and and influence us in some way down that path of fear, so that we become obsessed with this idea that I can't have, or I gotta be, or, and then I become I have a mania about it, and now that becomes my habit. So,
Right. Okay, we ready to move on?
everybody else?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
General therapy of obsession and mental influence. All obsession of whatever character is some form of mental influence and can easily be destroyed by making the above stated affirmation. We should never for one instant allow the suggestions of other mentalities to control us. The day will come when people will choose the thoughts that they allow to enter the mind as carefully as they now choose the food they eat. Staying close to the thought of the mind is a safe and sure protection from any and all wrong influence. I'm going to repeat here the affirmation that he's talking about is only the one mind controls.
Mm-hmm.
That's the affirmation he's talking about. Insanity. Insanity is the complete control of the conscious mind by the unconscious or subjective mind. Dwelling too long on one idea or some sudden shock seems to produce this state. It is easily healed by knowing that there is but one mind and that it cannot forget itself. There is one mind in God, and this mind is our mind now. The psychic power must be controlled. The psychic power should always be under full control of the conscious mind. Otherwise, all sorts of influences may be picked up, which, operating under the guise of seemingly real individualities, control the one who admits them. When the psychic power is under full control of the conscious mind, it furnishes a wonderful storehouse of knowledge. For, being the seat of memory of both the individual and the race, it contains much that we do not consciously know. All right, any comments of those 3 sections?
Well, I think that the point of insanity, I think that this is where he is. Insanity is the complete control of the conscious mind by the unconscious or subjective mind. So, yeah, can we talk about that for a minute, because that has a lot of information in it. Insanity is the complete control of the conscious mind by the unconscious or the subjective mind. So can you, Sakina, describe to us or define for us the unconscious mind or the subjective mind?
Well, the unconscious and the subjective mind is that part of us that we're not conscious of. It's like when we go to sleep at night, we're not conscious of breathing, yet we breathe. We're not conscious of blinking, yet our eyes blink. We're not conscious of our heart beating, yet it beats. So that's the subjective. That's the part of us that just automatically works without us doing anything. Whereas when we are conscious of something, we are allowing ourselves to be conscious and to be aware and to take responsibility. Unconsciousness and subjectiveness is where we're not taking responsibility. I don't take responsibility to breathe during the night. I go to sleep with the assumption and the knowledge that if it's to be, I'll wake up the next day. If it's not to be, I won't. But I don't go to sleep thinking, oh, I got to breathe. At least every 60 seconds, I've got to breathe. I've got to do this.
I don't think that, that's something, not to cut you off on that, but I don't think that's something that, necessarily that we have choices in. Either you're going to breathe or you're not. Either something's going to stop your breathing or you're not. You can't stop breathing. You can't drown yourself.
Yeah, people do.
You can't drown yourself. You can't put yourself, you cannot hold your breath until only to the point where you pass out, but your body will react.
But that's what I was describing, T-Man, as the difference between subjective and unconscious versus consciousness. That's what I was trying to suggest.
I'm with you, but I don't think that you can have a reaction of being conscious and not and I'm not going to say that you don't know what you're doing, because I can say that you can be angry enough where you can go, okay, I'm angry and I react, but you know what you're doing.
So how does that how is that insanity?
So yeah, how is
that insanity?
How does that play in a field of insanity?
It's when insanity is when the conscious mind no longer has control. It's when the unconscious or the subjective mind takes over completely.
So is that always a violent motion?
But so how would that be wouldn't that be your conscious mind then?
Yeah, can we get a definition on like what?
Yeah, can we look up insanity?
What one person might term as insanity might not be insanity.
I can tell you, we don't have to, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, thinking that you're going to get the same result. I mean, the definition
I
of
know
insanity.
that's what we have been told, but I mean, I
Yeah.
don't think that's a legal definition.
But
Okay.
as
Yeah, I
far as
would say what would be the
what would be a
overall
legal,
definition
yeah,
of,
what would be a moral legal?
of insanity?
So,
Because his definition is, I mean, I can kind of see what that was saying, but at the same time, it's like I would only think of an insane person as a person who knows what the heck they doing is crazy.
Or
What well, if
do not know. Most crazy
Or
people
they,
say
they don't think it's,
they
but they have it.
they
They're
don't think,
conscious
yeah.
of their deeds, whether they know it's right or wrong.
Yeah, what is yeah, I mean, how do you define insanity? I can't tell you if you've seen pink elephants.
Right? You never know. You never seen a
I just
blue elephant or something.
yeah, I just don't need you running down the street chasing pink elephants and get hit by a bus.
Right. Or if you are chasing pink elephants, and maybe we don't see them. Maybe we're the crazy people.
Yeah.
You never know.
right. What's insanity?
Yeah, so
okay, the dictionary definition, Oxford Languages, the state of being seriously mentally ill, semicolon, and madness. And it goes on to say extreme foolishness or irrationality. What is the literal meaning of insanity? Unsoundness of mind or lack of the ability to understand that prevents one from having the mental capacity required by law to enter into a particular relationship, status, or transaction, or that releases one rather from criminal or civil responsibility.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
make some minors.
Or
Yeah.
or those people who
Got you just saying that makes some minors.
yeah, but it's not, but but not necessarily, not only minors, but also those people who are who aren't conscious of who yeah people who aren't conscious of things that are
their actions.
Yeah.
You can tell them, hey, you know what, take your clothes off, and they'll do it, versus some
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
versus
And is there anything really wrong in taking your clothes off?
but
It's all relative.
but there is a certain difference of you saying, hey man, we at the soccer game, streak in front of everybody and take your clothes off, and you like, I'm down with it, versus you go to someone who is not mentally capacity where you can control that person.
Right.
So we
And
deal
they'll do
with
exactly what you say without
so we deal
questioning
with
it.
that in a control point of view of insanity.
Mm-hmm. Because you can offer them a suggestion, so they're easily manipulated by the subject matter at mind. And so maybe that's why it says insanity is the complete control of the conscious mind by the unconscious. See, to me, once you're if your unconscious is in control, then you're conscious of that. I mean, that seems like that's your conscious mind now. And so maybe I'm thinking of
I mean, it's subjugation, no matter.
Thinking of like dissociated personalities.
Yeah,
where you have multiple personalities. I think they call it dissociative personalities, where you have more than one person that's operating the mind at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So so I guess that so technically you could call that person insane, whereas because they have multiple personalities. And because this is saying that the way that you get out of that is to repeat to yourself, it is easily healed by knowing that there is but one mind, and that it cannot forget itself. there is one mind in God, and one mind is our mind now. And that reminds me of The Beautiful Mind, that movie with John Nash,
Mhm.
where he understood that it was his mind that was the problem, and for him to see all the different fragments of his mind, to put it into one place. And that's what he told himself, that he has one mind, and he chose the mind that he wanted. And then he would, if it was a new person, he said, are you real? Are you a real person? And they would have to, they would answer him yes or no, because he didn't trust, he no longer trusted his mind.
Yeah.
He no longer, he trusted his mind. Okay. All right.
Can I say something?
Yes, please.
Okay. With me, I have different personalities, so it's like a game for me. It's like I'm a forest and I'm like a little. For me, it's fun, but having that, I don't call my. Or I think it's just something that I do for fun.
What do you mean, something you do for fun?
Like I go like into like hi, I go like forest, and then I'll talk to my friend. I like, do you want to talk to your son? Want to talk to your son? And then I become a little boy. So for me, sometimes that's just something I do for fun, but I don't call myself insane. I just think it's having fun. I just want to share that.
Well, thank you, Forrest. Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Well,
That
Yeah.
was brave. I really
Um,
appreciate that.
well, again, I think we all have different levels. Not to cut you off, Miss Sakina, I know you want to keep going, but just real quick, I think we all have different levels and different people and different personalities and different feelings and different ways that we interact with different people in our lives. We don't treat everyone the same way that that we treat our mothers, that we treat our fathers. We don't treat everyone the same ways that we treat our best friends. You don't tell everything to everyone. You know, even I mean, just to go biblical on that point, and on this point of view where we are when it comes to levels. What it was 12 disciples. Jesus didn't tell none of them the same thing. He didn't. He had his own conversation and his own relationship with them in his own way. So there are so many different ways that we are who we are, and so many different emotions that combine us to make who we are, and it's pulling that energy together on it all to hold it together. That's what we've been doing. Luckily, for the most point in time, we've been doing it um, by the graces of creation, still allowing us to do that. But eventually, we're gonna get that test, and we're gonna have to learn how to hold on to it. Just us doing it because we know we can do it on all these emotions, good, bad, and ugly, left or right, up or down, black or white. We're going to have to hold on to them, and we're going to have to maintain them. And this is the practice, I think, that we're going through. And I'm done there for the evening.
Well, that's the third paragraph right there. That's what he said. The
Sorry,
psychic
I
power
didn't
should
see
always be under
it.
full control of the conscious mind.
Sorry, didn't see it. I'm done there for the night, y'all. I'm not gonna.
No, but I mean, that's what you just reminded us that, that's the third paragraph. The psychic power should always be under full control of the conscious mind. Because if we are not conscious of our actions, then we are, that's how we miscreate.
right.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
What I was going to add to what you were saying, T, was yes, I agree with you that he didn't say the same thing to each one of them, but also when they all heard him from their perspective. So they may have heard the same sentence, but not understood or comprehended it the same way. And that's, I think, is also important to understand that when we hear something, we're hearing it for what we need to hear it, how we need to hear it, that's going to help us to grow and that. And it's the same way within our mind. That the way we consciously accept something, it has to do with where we're at in our evolution and in our personal growth. But then as we share it, it helps each and everybody else, and also ourselves as we share. Are we ready to move on?
Yeah, we can finish up this last paragraph here, this normal state, and then because it's 3:36. We did start a little bit late today.
Okay.
So I think that, you know, when
Right,
we
we'll
finish
just-
up this
Yeah.
paragraph.
Okay, normal state. A normal condition would be a complete balance between the objective and subjective mentalities. This would give us an immediate access to all the wisdom of the human race, and might even extend much farther, for it could give access to a higher state, which is now more or less clogged by contrary suggestions. The subjective side of thought is the sole and only medium between the relative and the absolute. If one were in full control of his inner mentality, he could at once enter the absolute, and his every word would bear fruit. Jesus was such a one. In attempting to accomplish this, we do not have to come under control of any power other than that of our inner selves and our higher selves. Anything less than this is dangerous. Many seem to think that simply because they are under control, they must be dealing with spiritual power. No greater mistake was ever made. Jesus, who was fully illumined, always kept his full state of conscious thought and personal volition. Any comment? Is that the paragraph you want me to stop at, Penny?
Yeah.
Nothing?
Because we can discuss this last paragraph here. Says the first sentence is a normal condition would be a complete balance between the objective and subjective mentalities. And when we think about it, that is a normal state when we do have balance, and we're not controlled by any type of fear where we can't move forward, or we're not controlled by any type of somebody else's suggestions where we move based on what somebody else has said. But I think that I think that having a balanced mind, that does clear us up so that we can have our own thoughts, and we can trust and believe or investigate, or what's the word I'm looking for? Decipher our own thoughts.
Mm-hmm. I looked up objective versus subjective, and subjective relates to personal viewpoints, experiences, or perspectives, whereas objective refers to factual data that is not influenced by personal beliefs or biases. So I think how we see things all depends on our experiences, and we don't let what is factual, no, that's not what I want to say. What I'm trying to say is facts are facts, and there can be no denying facts. And depending on, I think, our experiences, those facts can be our truth, or we can see them, and if it doesn't have any influence or effect on us, we can just kind of, okay, so that's the way it is. And at the same time, not allow it to have any kind of influence on us. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Well, kind of, sort of, because I mean, facts aren't always facts. We're finding
Right.
out now that the things that we thought were facts
Mm-hmm.
were not facts. Were just bald-faced lies, a lot of them. But
Right.
we took them as facts. So I think that one of the things that we can do is that we can use our own discernment within to decide whether this thing is actually a fact. Just because some study says or some book says, it doesn't necessarily mean that that is a true fact. It means that that is something that someone else's perception or somebody else perceives as a fact, but it may or may not be a fact. And we might have to play along with it, because I had to play along with George Washington was said that he didn't chop down the cherry tree, when I knew that I had that. One of the stories in our families was that people ran away from his slaves ran away from his plantation. So he couldn't have been a good guy. He lied to somebody about something. But I had to play along with that fact, because those were the facts. But because our family knew something different than the rest of the world, we couldn't say that that was actual facts. But now more information is coming out, and we are finding out that the fact is that he really was not a good person. He just happened to be good at his job. And a lot of times, I think so. I think that that's why I think that when we are using our objective and subjective mentality, so that I can hear something, but I don't. But I also go by what I know to be true, and I have to find a balance between those two things.
Right. Right.
Whether the whole world knows about it, or the whole world believes about that, I still have to maintain where I stand in the middle.
I agree.
Now,
We're
as
learning
you
that
would,
a lot of the early English that came over were lazy people. That's why they wanted people of different color, different cultures to do their work. And it's sad that
well, considering that those that were doing the exploring, they were being financed. They were the second son, because the second sons had to prove themselves, wherein the eldest and the eldest son in the family, because it was a masculine dominated society then, but the second son had to prove himself by going to war or doing explorations and things like that, wherein the eldest son, he just got everything handed to him. He didn't have to prove anything to anybody. And when I think about it, in science, you have to go through an experiment to prove something is or isn't the truth. In history, for a long time, oral history was kind of dismissed. But then, as genealogy began to become more and more popular, the fact that those oral histories, or those stories that were handed down from one generation to the next, some of it was true, some of it was fantasized. But in order to legitimize those oral stories, or that oral history that was being passed down from one generation to the next in a family, it is required as far as genealogy is concerned, or the genealogical societies is concerned. It has to be proved by documentation. So if you can find a document, whether it's a census record, whether it's the last will and testament of someone, but you have to have more than one documented source to more or less say, yes, this is what it is.
Mhm.
And the point that I'm trying to make is we have to be able to prove facts.
Well, I think
And
where you're trying to
we're able to take those family stories, so to speak, and if we're able to put together facts, we can show the truth in those stories.
well, where I think you're trying to get to the fact, if you don't mind me piggybacking off of what you're saying, Miss Harriet, and just going ahead and doing my round table real quick, is
Okay.
that it's weird to say it like this, but
Say it, William, say it.
what we are and how we are is the product of of everything.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what, no matter how, no matter when, no matter where. But the thing about it is the thing about it is what I'm catching from this, and this is my round table. What I'm catching from this is I really want to read this book, and also the books that I have as far as the Seven Circle Quran, and Noble Jew Ali's book, along with Elijah Muhammad's book, because it's not saying the same thing, and it's not saying the same thing at the same time. All these books that I just named are from the 20s, 30s, 40s, where these books are really originated from. So where was the disconnect that kept us, and not only kept us from uniting to understand what we were and how we were, but also dividing us in breaking up what we would call what we would call a god, by again, like we were speaking, arm, leg, arm, head. Somebody got a piece of something, and see, okay. Who's that beeping? Is that me?
Something on mine.
Oh, no, I'm teasing, but no, some piece of religion got that, and whatever piece of religion got that part of that body, we are we as a nation of people are divided, because we all follow something that is the same thing from the same body, but in different ways, in different motions. So that's my curiosity on where I want to look at that divide, with everything that's being said today in the books that's being read, in the ways I study. So I definitely want to study that as well as on the round table. So you guys will probably be hearing from me on that. So as well, like
Excellent.
Well, thank you very much. So, Andre has already started us off on our roundtable, so we might as well continue. So, for our roundtable, Tay, is what we do is we talk about what we learned from today's session and how we can apply it to our lives. So anybody else wants to go next for the roundtable? Well, I choose somebody.
Can I go now?
Yes, go ahead, Forrest.
What I came into the group today, I was feeling a little down because I was letting someone else change my thinking and how I was feeling. But coming to the group today now, it gave me right back up to where I need to be, and not let anyone control my thoughts or my feelings. So coming to the meeting today really helped me to get back to source of God within.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jay.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Anybody else? Next.
Well, for me, this the whole book itself is kind of a I would say guide to helping me become more aware of how I use my mind, and using it for my good and for the good of all that I come in contact with. So today's lesson dealt more or less with those negative, I would say, things that can be disruptive as far as our mental capacities are concerned. And it just made me more aware of those things. And I find this whole subject fascinating, and I will stick with it.
Thank you, Harriet.
For
Well,
me,
go ahead, Sakina. Yes.
for me, it's becoming consciously mindless. In other words, keeping the mind as clean as a crystal, allowing it to be aware, but at the same time, not be a sponge. In other words, not allow it to absorb what it doesn't need, and to allow it to just be this crystal chalice in a sense, because a crystal, a quartz crystal, you can see right through it. And with the quartz crystal, any of you have ever had one, if you don't keep it clean, it eventually clouds up and you can't see through it. But as you keep it clean, and you don't really have to do anything with it, but hold it in your hand and just think clear crystal thoughts, it stays clear. And to be consciously aware of the mindlessness by not letting the mind get filled with any of the stuff that comes in that you feel is going to cloud it. So that's what I can take away. And that's what I feel, in a sense, is for me, my purpose is to keep that mind crystal clear, and to realize that God, the divine, the source, the pure energy that keeps this universe and universes beyond going, is what we're here for, the light and the love. So thank you.
Thank you. How about you, Tay?
Yeah. I guess what today, I'm gonna kind of keep it short because I got a lot going on in the background. I had to kind of step off and say this. I guess what I'm taking from it is just everybody kind of has because I wasn't, privy to all the other sessions, but from the little bit that I heard from this book, like kind of all is mind type situation, and like how everybody's kind of looking for that path to peace, source, God, or consciousness, enlightenment, whatever that is, for you. And what I'm going to take away from it is just know that you're in the world with, or you're in this plane and in this existence with many other consciousnesses, and try to, you have to kind of negotiate other energies, other belief systems, other frequencies, vibrations, and all that other stuff. But as long as you get around like-minded individuals, it makes that journey kind of a little less rocky. So that's what I'm gonna take from it.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. I think what I got from today's session is, just to really pay attention, to be aware of where I am in my thoughts. What am I thinking? To allow myself to um, be free in my thoughts and not to hold on to things I once necessarily believed, or even some of the things that we're learning now. It's important for me to evaluate what these things mean for me at this particular point in time where I am, and how I can allow these um, thoughts to, like Sakina says, to be that crystal clear, so that I don't have to hold on or be attached to anything that I think that I believe today. I don't have to hold on to it, say that, okay, well, this is what I believe, so 20 years from now I'm going to believe the same thing. I want to allow myself to be free in the way I think and how I think, and allow my thoughts and my actions to reflect one another, to reflect each other as the same. Okay,
Thanks,
well,
Mom.
that's the round. So that's our session for today. I now tomorrow, for the rest of this week, I found my calendar. I got it with me now. For the rest of this week, we have our Course in Miracles Wednesday from 5 to 6:30. On Thursday, we have I Am at 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. And then on Thursday evenings, we have the book Flight from 7 to 8:30. The following Saturday, which is going to be the 23rd, we are going to talk about astrology and Libra in particular, because we're in that time. So wonderful. I think right now we're still in Virgo, but by the 23rd we'll be entering into we'll be in Libra. The 24th.
My birthday's
Huh?
My birthday's October 17th.
October the 17th. Oh, happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Let's see, then we have on the 24th we'll be working in Kabbalah, and we're still in that section of NetSack, I believe. So we'll probably be concluding with that this on the 24th. And then on the 30th, we're having our great session of the movie. We're having a movie time, and we're going to be watching What Dreams May Come. We're going to be at Sandra's house. It's going to start at 2. It's going to be from 2 to 4 or 5. Well, we watch the movie and then we have a short discussion. But we're going to have food and fun and just fellowship. And we don't get a chance to socialize together in person enough. So I think that that's going to be a fun session for us. And that's it for the day, unless anybody else can think of anything else that we need to mention. Okay, well, then that's it for the day. Would anyone like to close us out in prayer?
Okay, fellas, I'll do it again, but fellas, y'all better step up. The ladies, I got fellas in the house. Y'all better start stepping up. But no,
Oh, okay.
Again, Heavenly Father, we thank you for another day. Thank you for the blessings that you've given us. We thank you for the knowledge that has been bestowed upon us for us to understand where we all are and where we all are coming from, in the way that these lessons have come to us in so many different directions, in so many different words, in so many different time periods, in so many different literal places, but it has brought us all together for us all to come to understand what we call inner haven, and how we define each other as human beings and one person, and feel each other's energy. With these things said, peace and blessings. Everyone have a great week.
Peace
Peace and blessings, everybody. Love you.
Peace and
Love
blessings.
you
Thank you.
all.
Bless you,
Appreciate it.
everyone.